This is Scarface, final scene, fucking bazookas under each arm. Say hello to my little friend!
Always with the scenarios.
I'm willing to move forward. Let the past be bygones.
Fine with me.
Your brother Billy, whatever happened there,
Whatever happened there?
God rest his soul, man.
This is one of the funniest scenes in The Sopranos. Probably one of the most popular scenes in the whole show, and I couldn't leave it out of the catalog. Tony, Phil, and little Carmine are sitting down trying to calm things between New York and Jersey, and somehow little Carmine manages to say the worst possible thing at the worst possible time. He looks at Phil dead serious and says,
Your brother Billy, whatever happened there,
and Phil repeats it back because his brain is still trying to process the level of stupidity that just entered the room.
Whatever happened there?
And then this stupid fuck goes and says,
the shooting.
like Phil was confused about which dead brother they were discussing and needed help remembering what part Carmine was talking about. I have talked about how stupid Jackie Jr. is, but I think we have a new number one here. He phrases Phil's brother getting murdered like it was some vague, unfortunate event nobody wants to get specific about. He is sitting in a room full of people trying very carefully not to make things worse, and he immediately makes things worse with one sentence. And yes, the line is already funny by itself, but it gets even funnier when you know the context. Because Tony and Phil did not arrive at this table with some random tension. They are sitting inside one very specific problem. Tony B getting involved in New York's war, Angelo getting killed, Billy getting murdered, Phil being denied the revenge he wanted, and Tony Soprano trying to keep all of it from turning into something bigger. So before we come back to this scene and go through it line by line, I want to quickly explain only this plotline, just the chain of events that makes Phil hear this guy and instantly lose his mind. Once you understand what Phil is carrying into that room and what Tony went through, little Carmine's line stops being just a funny stupid quote and becomes one of the most perfectly stupid things anyone could have said. The context starts with Tony B trying to stay clean after prison, but every part of his new life is humiliating him. When New York starts falling apart after Carmine Sr. dies, Tony B becomes useful to the wrong people. Johnny Sack wants the top seat. Little Carmine wants it too. And little Carmine's side needs somebody to hit one of Johnny's guys. That is where Tony B comes in. He gets offered money to kill Joey Peeps, and at that point, the offer touches the exact weak spot in him. He wants fast money. He wants to feel dangerous again. He wants to stop being the guy on the outside watching everyone else live the life he missed, so he takes the job. Joey Peeps is sitting in the car, relaxed, with no idea that Tony B's failure at living normally is about to land on him. Tony B walks up, kills Joey, kills the girl with him, and limps away after hurting his foot. That one job puts him inside New York's war. And once Tony B steps into that war, New York answers back in a way that hits him personally. Because Tony B killed someone from Johnny Sack's side, Johnny's people go after Angelo, and that is where this stops being just a paid job Tony B took for money. Angelo isn't just some name in the New York war to Tony B. He is one of the few people from prison who still feels close to him, one of the few men who understands the years he lost without Tony B having to explain them. He belongs to the part of Tony B's life nobody else really understands. Tony Soprano can feel guilty for him. The guys can welcome him back. His family can try to act normal around him. But Angelo knows what those years felt like because he was there too. So when Phil and Billy kill Angelo, Tony B doesn't just hear that some old New York guy got taken out. He hears that one of the only people connected to his missing life has been murdered because of a move he made. Now, it has touched him. The first hit was business. Joey Peeps was money. But Angelo's death makes it personal. And now Tony B is thinking like someone who just got dragged back into the only language this world really respects. And the important detail for the whatever happened there scene is that Billy is there. Billy is part of Angelo's death. So when Tony B goes after Billy later, it is Tony B answering the pain he helped start. After Angelo is killed, Tony does not see Tony B's revenge directly. He dreams it first. In the dream, Tony B walks up and shoots Phil in the car, and the whole thing has that strange dream feeling where everything is obvious and wrong at the same time. Tony is watching something his mind already knows is coming. Angelo is dead, Tony B is hurt, and a man like Tony B is not going to sit quietly with that pain. The dream gets the details wrong. Phil is not the one who dies. But Tony's fear is right, because later, Tony wakes up into the real version of it. Tony B did go after Phil. He did answer Angelo's death, only the bullet lands on Billy, Phil's younger brother, while Phil survives. Phil loses a brother and he survives the attack that kills him. He is left alive with the image of Billy on the ground, and with Tony B's name attached to it. After Billy gets killed, Tony B finally calls Tony. The call already sounds like the end of the road. Tony B is hiding. His voice is low, and before anything else, he asks Tony to look after the twins. He knows New York is coming. Then he says the part Tony already understands.
I'm leaving you with a real pile of shit in your lap.
That line pulls the whole situation onto Tony. Billy Leotardo is dead. Phil survived, and the man who caused it is Tony's cousin. Tony can hear the disaster in front of him, and he can also hear the old guilt underneath it. So the call turns into something older than Billy. Tony finally tells Tony B the truth about the night he went away.
The night you went away, I told you that I got jumped by a couple of shines. Well, it was all bullshit. I got in a fight with my mother and I passed out.
For years, Tony let the old story stand, that he missed the hijacking because he got jumped. Now, with Tony B hiding in New York waiting for blood, Tony admits he had a fight with his mother, had a panic attack, and passed out. All these years, Tony B carried the prison sentence. Tony carried the lie and guilt. It sounds like he is trying to give his cousin one clean thing before everything closes in. The problem is, Phil has no room for any of this. Phil doesn't care about panic attacks, old guilt, prison stories, or what Tony owes his cousin from when they were young. Phil has Billy dead on the ground, Tony B breathing somewhere, and Tony Soprano still answering the phone like the killer belongs to him. That is the wound that keeps moving toward the sit-down. Phil is already carrying the whole call without ever hearing it. In his mind, Tony is protecting family. He is managing the story and keeping the man who killed his brother just out of reach. After that call, Tony goes to Johnny Sack with a way to end it. He knows where Tony B is, and he knows what has to happen. The offer is simple: let me handle my cousin, and we can keep this from getting worse. Johnny doesn't give him that.
I want you to promise it'll be quick.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Tony, I don't have to.
Tony is trying to turn Tony B's death into damage control. Johnny is telling him there is no clean version left because Phil doesn't want an ending. He wants time with him, meaning he wants to torture him. So now Tony understands what handing Tony B over really means. It means letting Phil take Billy's death out on his cousin slowly, personally, and with New York's approval. And Tony cannot do that. So when this meeting fails, the choice becomes smaller. Tony can either give Tony B to Phil, or he can get to him first. Tony brings the guys together and tries to make the problem sound like loyalty. He tells them he is giving Tony B the same protection he would give any of them.
I am offering him the same protection that I would offer any of you.
And you can hear what he wants the room to believe. If you were in trouble, I would stand between you and New York too. Then he says,
but we are a family.
And that is the line he needs them to buy. Because by now, the danger is no longer sitting only with Phil. It is sitting at this table too. These guys are eating, drinking, looking down at their plates, and every one of them understands that Tony's cousin has made all of them a target. Tony says they'll deal with it together, no matter how it affects anybody. That sounds noble until you look at the faces around him. Nobody is inspired. They don't hear family. They hear a boss asking them to absorb the consequences of his cousin's mistake. They hear New York outside the door. They hear Phil looking for somebody to hurt if he can't get Tony B. Tony can still protect his cousin in private, but now he has to perform that protection in front of men who are starting to wonder if his blood family means more to him than the family sitting at the table. The room claps, but it feels thin. The speech ends, and the problem is still sitting there with them. This next scene has one of my favorite Tony moments in the whole show. Silvio follows him after the meeting because he knows the speech didn't fix what everyone is thinking. Tony tried to make it sound like family, like protection, like the kind of loyalty that holds a crew together, and Silvio lets him get all the way through it before putting the real word in front of him.
But we all got flaws, even you. 7 deadly sins, and yours is pride.
And Tony takes it badly because it lands close. Silvio is basically saying that maybe part of him is holding this line because he can't stand the idea of Johnny Sack or Phil forcing his hand. That is a dangerous thing to say to Tony, especially coming from Sil. He is the one person close enough to Tony to say it low, careful, and still cut straight through him. So when Tony turns on him, the line comes out like it has been sitting in his chest for years.
All due respect, you got no fucking idea what it's like to be number one.
And this is where the line gets bigger than Tony B, because every face around Tony has an opinion. Every guy has a fear. Every problem gets carried to his chair like he's supposed to hold it, solve it, and still look untouched after it's done. The crew wants safety. New York wants blood, Phil wants time with the body, Tony B wants mercy without asking for it. And Tony is standing in the middle of all of it, knowing the answer is going to make him smaller to somebody. Everyone else gets to judge the move after it happens. Tony has to make it. And once Silvio says pride out loud, Tony understands the room has already started turning on the version of him that keeps protecting his cousin. The only move left is the one nobody can do for him.
Boy, are you fat.
Okay, obviously that is not the reason he kills him. Although with Tony, let's be honest, joking about his weight probably moved you up the list a little bit. But the real reason is much heavier. Tony gets to that farm before Phil does. That is the whole point. Tony B walks outside like there is still a conversation waiting for him. Still some final cousin moment. Still some way this can become another thing. Tony talks his way through. Tony doesn't give him that space. The shot comes fast because Tony already knows what New York would do if they got there first. Phil didn't want Tony B quietly dead. He wanted him handed over. He wanted time with him. He wanted Billy's death paid back slowly. So Tony gives his cousin the last protection he can still offer. A quick death. It's a mercy, and it's disgusting at the same time, because this is still Tony B, the cousin from the old life. The guy Tony carried guilt for. The guy he just told, now we're even. And now Tony is standing there with the shotgun, because every softer version of the ending disappeared. For Tony, this closes the crisis. For Phil, this steals the revenge. And this next one is the last piece of context before we go back to the actual scene. Tony has killed Tony B, and now he goes to Johnny Sack to make the whole thing official. This is the part where, for a second, it actually looks solved. Tony B is gone. Phil never got him, which is already going to hurt, but Johnny can still keep the situation from turning into something bigger. So Tony comes to him with a peace offering, a piece of the casino, basically something to put on the table so everyone can pretend the blood has been paid for, and Johnny takes it. Tony already did the ugly part. He killed his own cousin, gave New York the body, and came to Johnny with money so the situation could finally stop moving. For a moment, it works. Tony and Johnny are standing there in the snow, talking like two bosses who found the price of the damage. And then the FBI comes. Johnny gets arrested right in front of Tony, and the whole structure changes. The one guy who could keep Phil under control is suddenly in cuffs, walking into a completely different problem. And Phil is now the boss. Things are not looking good for Tony. By the time we reach the sit-down, Tony and Phil are carrying all of this into the room. Billy is dead. Tony B is dead. Johnny is out of the way. And this is the reason I wanted all that context first. Because when you first watch this scene, it's already funny. Little Carmine says something insanely stupid. Phil reacts like Phil, Tony gets pissed, and the clip becomes legendary. But after you understand everything that had to happen before this table, the scene becomes even funnier, because now you can see how close they were to actually fixing it. Tony killed his own cousin. Johnny Sack accepted the settlement. The whole situation has been dragged, beaten, paid for, and almost pushed into the ground. Now all little Carmine has to do is sit there and avoid being a fucking idiot for 3 minutes. Impossible task, apparently. He starts talking in that calm voice, trying to sound like the wise peacekeeper, and you can already feel danger coming because every time little Carmine tries to sound smart, a sentence gets hurt. He looks at Phil dead serious and says,
Your brother Billy, whatever happened there?
That phrase alone is crazy. Phil's brother got murdered. Phil survived the attack. Tony took away the revenge he wanted. Everybody in the room knows this is the one thing you have to speak about carefully. And little Carmine goes with, whatever happened there. Like Billy slipped on a wet floor. Phil repeats it back because even he needs a second.
Whatever happened there? Whatever happened there?
That was the warning. That was the universe giving little Carmine one chance to close his mouth and let the adults continue breathing. And this stupid fuck says,
The shooting.
Whatever.
God rest his soul.
like Phil needed help. Like Phil was sitting there confused about which murdered brother they were discussing. At that point, he should change his name to Little Dumb Fuck, because there is no way a human being with working survival instincts hears Phil repeat that line and thinks the missing piece is clarification. Now Phil brings the whole thing back into the room himself.
I'll tell you what fucking happened. This piece of shit's cousin put
down,
6
Phil.
bullets in the kid.
And just like that, all the polite language dies. Phil says Tony's cousin killed his brother. He says it in front of Tony, in front of Carmine, in front of the whole failed little peace meeting. The thing they were trying to step around is back on the table with blood on it. Tony tries to hold the deal in place.
My cousin's dead.
That's Tony saying the price was paid. He killed Tony B himself. He did the ugly thing already. From Tony's side, this meeting is supposed to be the part where everyone accepts the damage and moves on. Phil looks at him and says,
Fuck you.
and that is the meeting gone. Because Tony and Phil walked in with the wound already there. Carmine's job was to help keep it closed for one conversation, and somehow he found the exact sentence that made Phil feel like everyone was trying to shrink his brother's murder into vague meeting language. Tony's reaction says everything.
Jesus Christ, Carmine, what the fuck?
That line is Tony realizing this idiot just undid the whole thing in real time. All the killing, all the talking, all the compromises, all the attempts to keep this from becoming something bigger. Little dumb fuck came to the table as the peacemaker and somehow left as the reason Phil remembered he still wanted blood.